So the paper was written by Alda Fascio. I don't know who that is.
I have to research. It's about the patriarchy.
Yeah.
Definition of patriarchy as the oldest form, a system of domination.
It's been there since.
It's been with us for about 6 millennia, according to this paper. I'll have to research further because pre-patriarchy, there historically, yes, there have. I guess even I don't know about it. There have been societies that have been more egalitarian. Not even.
I think ancient Philippines was.
Yes, not even defined as a matriarchy or not even defined as a patriarchy, but egalitarian, like, it's equal.
But there's this thing I read where they said that you may think it's matriarchy, but it's matrilineal only, meaning matrilineal lang siya doesn't necessarily mean matriarchy.
Well, according to this paper, there's no historical. According to them, there's no society with a kind of matriarchy that's matriarchal.
Isn't the Catholic Church patriarchy?
It is, of course.
Kasi
it's any religion. Sorry, even your beloved Buddhism has a patriarchal.
Because they're all guy figures.
Yeah, they're all
figures.
Guy. Yeah, so it's still a control over women. Yeah, I understand.
Although Buddhism doesn't say anything about gender.
Yes, but the ones who still control it are men. The religion may be egalitarian in principle, but the hierarchy, the system and the hierarchy is still patriarchal. Yeah. I mean, the original founder may have taught egalitarianism and love everybody.
But the head is still a man.
But the system in which it was propagated.
Buddhism is not a religion, but anyway.
Well, okay, fine, but it's not a religion. I mean, any belief system is,
But yeah, okay. So, which part got to you, or what do you remember?
Well, a lot of interesting thoughts about it that you may not even realize it exists because it's so invisible, it's so embedded in. It's been millennia of brainwashing that you won't be able to recognize that it's there. Even
yes, because we don't even realize. I was like, you don't even realize you've been brainwashed because it's been there for generations.
Yes, and it starts even with the nuclear family propagates it because of the father as the head of the household, the mother is the light of the language, even the language as well as the
because
scientific.
It's been there so long, and it's been in our culture, in every culture so long that women don't even realize that it's actually it is actually possible to live an alternative kind of life.
Yeah, it's possible. But the systems are all there. Religion, schools, economics.
Diba it said parang it's an invisible, what? An invisible...
It's invisible that even you wouldn't realize it's there.
An invisible what?
It's a form of domination. It's a system of domination. Hegel talked about it. Yun nga lang, of course, they stopped talking about it and the feminists picked up on the word. So the feminists didn't invent the word. It was actually... used by social scientists pre-feminism.
What word? Patriarchy?
Patriarchy. The feminists didn't invent the word. People like Hegel used the word, or maybe I have completely forgot everything about Hegel. I have to reread that again.
I understand the institution of male solidarity. There's something I read here about. That's what I remember. There's this male solidarity thing that goes on. At the same time, yung sabi mo divide and conquer, the women are pitted against each other, like Angelina Jolie versus Jennifer Aniston, and nobody talks about the behavior of Brad Pitt in the whole situation.
Yeah, Brad's a dick too.
Brad Pitt gets away scot-free from the whole... Everyone. We take this as an example because you don't have to explain what happened because the whole world knows what happened. So this is the example we'll use. The whole world will pit Angelina Jolie versus Jennifer Aniston, and will try to pit the women against each other. Diba? And the whole time, nobody's talking about what's the responsibility of Brad Pitt in this whole thing. Well, isn't he the one who...
The U.S. mainstream media is part of the patriarchy because it propagates that idea.
That's why. That's what I read here. We read it here now. They will make women loathe each other, compete with each other, and not trust each other. There is contempt for each other. That's why even in high school, women are so mean to each other. It starts there, competing with each other. And then the men naman, they're so solid.
Institutionalized,
and I realized, oh my God, when I read it, oh my God, that's what they've been doing.
You start with the And it's not even, people don't even realize they're propagating it because it all goes
Yes.
back to the ones in power who are economically at the top of the totem
It all
pole.
started from way back.
So whatever a lot of men in their families don't even realize they're propagating this.
And women don't realize they're just
normal.
They're just following because this is how it's always been.
Well, that's why
they know nothing else. When you realize, wait a minute, there can be a something else.
That's why.
Because I realized you were brainwashed from the time you were a little girl that you grow up, get married, have kids, and everything else is secondary. Parang it's brainwashing talaga for girls. And great for marketing for everybody else. Right?
Well, they mentioned it exists in any form of government. But right now, since we're all neoliberal capitalists, so it's in the capitalist system all over the world. It can exist in any form, even socialist it mentioned. So, old Russia...
Oh, and then...
Wait, let me finish.
Yeah.
Institution of male solidarity, in other words, the old boys club.
Yeah.
So even Russia...
Which is like what happens
Russia
now.
was supposedly claimed to give women more equal rights, the Soviet Union, but
who's
who's still at the top of the food chain? It's the old boys club. It's Stalin and his boys. It's always the Politburo. Still dudes. Still dudes, even if women supposedly...
in communist countries.
So
communist
countries. It's a mindset, I guess. It's a mindset that's... And weird now, chicken before the egg. What came first, the system or the mind? This kind of mindset. Who invented this? If according to this paper, we have to research further. We can't just take it to the paper.
Well, it's in everything, and it's in religion and a lot of institutions. So, if it's everywhere, then
I know, but I need to research further on origins of the patriarchy because according to this paper, it's actually fairly new in our history. It's only 6,000 years old. That's still fairly new
But before that, there was kingdoms and stuff, so it's always been there.
No, but before, according to this guy, it came... I don't know how the paper is able to come up with 6,000 years. I would have to research further.
We don't even know who De Fascio is.
That's why I have to research further De Fascio.
If it's a girl or a guy.
And you have to research further.
I don't even know where I got this paper. I remember saving it, downloading it, and I clicked on it, and I was like, oh, I read it. I downloaded it for a reason.
We shouldn't take it as gospel truth, but it's a good starting point to research further on when did this system start.
I don't know. It's somebody's paper. What do you think?
But they don't have that. It should have those, those
We're just reacting to
footnotes
somebody's paper.
Yeah,
it does have footnotes.
Yeah, but it doesn't have it doesn't have complete footnotes. For example, it says 6 millennia. There's no footnote or endnote to the source that would prove that the patriarchy is as old as 6,000 years old. It just mentions 6 millennia at the end, towards the end. But anyway, point is, it exists, and it's part of many of our problems.
A tacit agreement that... Wait, you saw that? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, especially I'm sorry to say this, I think in Western... Particularly, I think in America, it's really bad. Women really do have a lesser value, and for some strange reason, I felt it. Maybe more because I'm going to feel it more as an adult visiting for the first time. I felt it. I felt you had more value than me when we went there. I felt you were more seen as the consumer than me. Whereas here in the Philippines, you enter as a consumer in any store or restaurant, they say, ma'am, sir. Notice they say ma'am first.
Yeah.
Who is the primary consumer in the Philippines? Ma'am, sir. Diba? The waiters say that. Anyone in the consumer, who's waiting on people, they say ma'am, sir. Diba? We make fun of it because every time we enter, ma'am, sir. Oh, so mas importante pa nga si ma'am kaysa kay sir. Ma'am, nasan si sir? Oh, sa consumer culture. So, parang sa America, when we visited, parang sinabi ko sa'yo, parang afterwards I felt, parang ikaw yung mas mahalaga na consumer kaysa sa akin. Hindi ako pinapansin. Ikaw yung pinapansin nila. Even in the hostel where we stayed. Because it's your name on the
Yeah, I think when we were shopping for shoes and a jacket.
Parang ikaw yung pinapansin na consumer.
Walking with
Whereas in the Philippines, ma'am, sir, ako yung pinapansin. Ako yung reyna when I enter a store. Hindi ikaw, di ba?
Yeah.
So parang that's the difference between parang America, at least on the consumer level, and here. Get it?
Even though there's a patriarchy in the Philippines, it still wasn't able to erase this very strong, like we talked about.
The respect for women.
You mentioned that the 300, you're the one who said that 300 years of
was not able to erase
Spanish imperialism,
colonialism,
invasion, occupation, and the Christian religion or Catholic religion weren't able to. They tried to destroy them. They destroyed the lands. And
a lot of Filipina women, barangay captains, all levels, councilors, senators, and all the way up. We have leadership positions with women everywhere. It's normal in our society. Whereas in America, it's such a big deal to have a female this and a female that.
Unless the Filipino is really sexist, whether male or female. Most of the time when people get criticized here, has nothing to do with them being male.
It has to do with who they are as a person, their family dynasty.
If they're corrupt.
They're all criticized equally. And there are evil women in this particular bunch of politicians, and there are evil men. They're all treated. We view them as the same party.
It does still come out, like for example, even if with somebody like Mocha Uson, questionable as she is, she still gets, she still gets
the
sexist comments, unfortunately.
But even a lot of guys on the other side naman were saying, stop it with those. That's not the way to argue about,
it's not with her being a sexy star or whatever. Just do with her being a liar and a reprehensible human being. That's nothing to do with her being.
And she got her way because she's obviously, like I guessed, the ihada, the godchild of somebody, a frat brother or someone.
Still patriarchal.
So it's still
patriarchal.
Or basically the ninang-ninong system.
No, that's why the whole padrino system, which goes back still to the Spanish, is still patriarchal. Padrino, anak ni, bata ni, so on and so forth, still patriarchal. And
there's something here I read also, aside from consumer-wise, the woman is more important in certain cultures. Also, what was it? I forgot my point.
Maybe the point is, whatever culture is dominant uses the patriarchy to their own needs. Obviously, capitalism.
It always is to benefit the man. Now I remember. Sorry, menopause. What do you call it? The man. It started happening na the man's work has market value, capitalist value, whereas the woman, if she just works at home, if she puts up suddenly something, it is not seen as valuable as the man's work.
Even her normal the sexist relegation to housework is invisible. That's why artists like Chantal and other women artists chose to show that, because it's not seen, it's not shown. And also to point out that how wrong that is, that women are only relegated to household chores. And what you read here is correct, that
but that's mixing up the whole film thing. You have to explain it in the context of the film thing, but we're talking about in general.
No, that's why. It's invisible. Women are made to, in a capitalist patriarchal culture.
Sinabi nila dyan,
women's contribution is invisible. It's not even counted.
It's the man's work that counts in the capitalist system.
Because he's the one who's working and blah, blah, blah.
Assuming that he is the one who's working, and whatever she does is just, cute home-baked goods or home business. It's not considered so great and not considered so valuable. It's just something that she's doing.
Well, it didn't even mention about women doing cottage industry or some kind of home-based business. It's really just talks about...
And it must be baking cookies or else. Oh my God.
I know, but it really talks about just housework and raising the kids. That is completely
if a woman has to have a business before, it had to be strictly food, baking, children related,
gender stereotype,
This is why I refuse to do children's books or whatever. I never was attracted to that. Fine, girls who like to write children's books, but I was never into that because it's still. Now I found the language to communicate why I don't want to write children's books, because parang that's why is it always the women who are writing the children's books. That's the safe writing na dyan ka lang, women write children's books. Parang, to me, it's part of that whole patriarchy thing na. That's why I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to write badass books, and it's not going to be about, you get my point.
No, well, we talked about it already. I get your point.
Like, it's only children's books.
Plus, it's still boys' club because in any field...
It's like baking cookies.
In any field, the patriarchy is there because, of course, the men get more recognized. They're more taught in schools. They get more recognized as a writer, even though there's so many women writers. So, in any field, that's the problem. What I realized about this reading is there are biological real differences between men and women. The problem is the patriarchy uses those differences to the advantage to subjugate women.
Like what?
And that men are physically stronger than women. You cannot deny that. But it's
in general,
used to dominate, to put women down. So I'll hit you. I'll do domestic violence against you. There's a threat of violence always, whether it's
danger.
So, and of course, the women are the only ones who can give birth. Instead of that being a choice, it becomes an obligation to perpetrate the patriarchal as well as capitalist more worker drones.
That's why it is so hard. It all goes back to the choice of women who have decided not to have children, or even those who wanted to but decided later it's not going to be such a priority. That's why it is so hard for society to accept them, because how dare you decide against this whole system that's been there since time immemorial? How dare you wish to be free of this shackles?
And it's unconscious because even so-called progressive artists we know
still ask us where
Well, it's too late already biologically now.
But before they kept asking, and I'm like, these are the most progressive artists we know still asking us for.
That's still patriarchy.
Yeah,
it's patriarchal thinking. You don't realize it. I never thought of asking people where's your kid.
I never did either. That's where we're the same. I never.
If people get married, I don't ask them where's the kid. If they so happen to have a kid, okay, you have a kid. You have a kid, and that's why you've been a member of all these, but these childless support groups, because the having children is placed on a pedestal, and your women are set against each other. You've shown me the problem naman with the childless groups. They're too extreme, naman.
Yeah.
It's like we're the good ones, they're the bad ones. That's also wrong. I mean, the point is the women should have a choice
and respect the choice.
Yeah,
because if it was a guy's choice, nobody would question his choice.
Yes,
that's the whole point. They don't question a guy's choice, but they will always question the woman's choice. There's something wrong with her,
regarding having kids or abortion,
whatever
that.
Choice she makes. There's something wrong with her. She makes that choice.
The woman's body, obviously.
But if it was a guy making the choice, no questions asked. Just like nobody bothered Brad Pitt about that whole situation, but they kept pitting.
Yes, even though
they kept demonizing Angelina and
even though you have
making
making
an angel out of Jennifer Aniston. We needed the clearest example, diba? So yun.
No, but that's weird because I realized si Brad was never questioned.
Never.
And the mainstream media just kept doing a Team Jen and Team Angie.
They did that. There were T-shirts, Team Jolie and Team Aniston.
Well, but they also
there
mentioned...
were T-shirts being sold in boutiques in the mall because of that.
Well, it's patriarchal because it's a divide and conquer.
Oh, and without realizing
it. And the way, and not just women, the way, of course, for example, people got colonized by Catholicism, Christianity, or the other countries. It couldn't be divide and conquer. So is divide and conquer a patriarchal tactic?
This paper just made me realize whoever this fascio is, whether boy or girl who wrote this, what is patriarchy PDF that I found on the desktop and I forgot where I got it from. This paper just made me realize, wow, it's everywhere. I mean, I heard about it and I knew about it, and I thought I knew enough. I thought I'd read enough. And then this simple 5-page paper of somebody that don't even know how I got it to my desktop. But it's like 5 pages. It's not that brilliant. But the point is, it's somebody's homework, I think we're reading, right? I forgot where I got it from. But yeah, it basically tells you in 5 pages that it's everywhere. It's freaking everywhere. And I hadn't realized that it's really everywhere.
It's the air you breathe in.
Yeah, and that's gonna take 6,000. If it took 6,000 years to do that, it's gonna take 6,000 years to undo that. You can't just press undo because we're all. We have to start raising girls and boys differently. I don't know, but I don't know how that even works.
You can't change the system. You just have to really encourage. People or parents have to raise their children.
That's why every time we shop for my nephew, we always buy gender-neutral toys without being too weird about it. But it's always like an animal or something that he can actually use, which doesn't necessarily have to be a boy's toy or a girl's toy. I always look for educational, gender-neutral toys that are very fun. And I don't want ever to... I always say the age is this, he's this age. That's why every time we shop for a toy, I'm really thinking about that. I do not think like, it's a boy, it has to be this kind of toy. No. So I think it starts there, even with shopping for toys, where you go to school, what they teach in the school at a young age, and how boys are supposed to talk to girls or how they view girls, and then even... especially in high school and college, all these things. It'll take generations. You can't just press undo.
So I had the thought, defining categorization instead of categorization as a way to understand things better. It's a categorization to divide and conquer and then dominate, subjugate, perpetuate the system. So even like what Evie mentioned, the toys it's categorized because obviously you can easily make money. The point is to make money. So you can make all these war toys for boys and then just all the domestic toys for the girls, so on and so forth. So it's still a way the categorization is used by the system to perpetuate itself, which is, in other words, to make as much money as possible regardless of the consequences, and more money than you need actually. Anyway, this is a long.
The woman paper. Blaming in the Bible, that was obvious to me from the start.
Well, yeah,
the blaming Eve for blaming Eve for the apple and all these other things. That was obvious. That was the most obvious to me from the start when it came to when you read the Bible stories.
It's what they are rebreathing. All the systems we grew up with have different levels or different degrees of the patriarchy to make you, unless you question it or unless you're self-aware. So yes, any religion or any belief system, almost any in the world right now, the dominant forms are pretty much
plus the hierarchy.
Patriarchal.
There's a hierarchy, like, what did it say there? You read that part? It would have to be a white Christian guy at the top of the hierarchy.
No, in Brazil, for example.
It's not just in Brazil, right?
No, yeah, I know, but each culture would have a different person at the top of the hierarchy, depending on the culture.
Well, in our culture, you're kind of at the top because you're a landlord. So Catholic,
Christian or Catholic, landed, educated in the right schools.
The right schools. And you have the right job.
Coming from the right family.
The right
family lineage. I know.
And I had to be from the right school as well, or else it wouldn't fly.
No, our marriage, remember, is right wing.
Oh, yeah.
It's the right wing.
Military brats and the landowner.
The landowner. That's the right wing. That's a right wing marriage.
But, they had to check if I was from the right school, too. Anyway, that's part of it, isn't it? That's all patriarchy.
Yeah.
But in our culture, we're at the top of the hierarchy, are we? Sort of. Near the top.
Not the top. Obviously, the top is
the top is like
the ultra rich and
but that we're talking about
elite.
In general, like you're still part of the Burgis.
We're part of the
what you call the Burgis.
We're part of the problem.
We're self-aware, and sadly, we're so self-aware, right?
Part of the problem.
But at least we are self-aware. Sadly, a lot of people aren't. What else? But in other countries, nga, like in America, let's say, the bottom is what? The black people.
Somebody who's not white, blacks.
Because in among the Asians, though, who's at the top? The Chinese, and then who's next?
I don't know who's next, but we're near the bottom.
The
Filipinos are near the bottom.
Really?
Near the bottom. According to the person we met the one who's been there for a long time in San Francisco and observed and analyzed the hierarchies, the systems of hierarchy, social hierarchy, within San Francisco at least. So that's
in San Francisco, though, the Chinese girls end up with the Jewish guys.
Yes. And again, that's not saying we're anti-Chinese Jewish or people might misunderstand. The point is observation.
Observation, lahat yan.
It's different.
We're all bouncing off this paper about patriarchy, and it mentioned there's hierarchies within the male system. And
differences, So within the San Francisco system, according to that person, it would be a rich Jewish guy and
a Chinese doctor girl.
With a Chinese doctor girl or a rich Chinese girl. Locally, this would be one example. Military brat marrying into a landed clan. So there's military connection.
And it would have to be a high-ranking military.
High-ranking, and which she is, even though it's retired. But
you wouldn't marry what?
The daughter of
a sergeant.
Not even a sergeant. The daughter of a sergeant, or the daughter of a grunt.
Yeah,
the daughter of a soldier. You wouldn't
so
marry.
that's an example of this whole patriarchal system that you will find everywhere.
Obviously, you've seen it with the political and economic elite. You marry each other based on.
I realized how patriarchal. That was the word I was looking for growing up in the Air Force community. That was the word I was looking for. I was always wondering, why do the guys get to do all the fun stuff, and the girls have to bake cookies and join choir, and we don't really get to do the really fun stuff that the guys are always saying they're doing. It's really patriarchal. And it seems to me it's the patriarchal part is still carries on because in the Facebook page, it's the guys all making ingay and parang the girls are silent.
The military by its very nature is patriarchal.
Super patriarchal. We're supposed to be, as I wrote in my post, passive, silent, and pretty. And we get rewarded for being silent and pretty. But if you are not silent and pretty, you will not be rewarded, right? Parang ganun eh. Parang yung mga observations ko lang growing up.
Well, look at even for example, Kiboloy. Prime example.
Oh my God, let's talk about Kiboloy.
But of course, something like the church or the Christian or the Catholic hierarchy is more subtle or looks more subtle if you're not aware. Obviously, it's not subtle. It's all men. But Kiboloy, of course, is a more obvious symptom of the problem. The Kiboloy situation is a more obvious symptom. Allegedly, he did all these things. Most likely true, but allegedly, just to protect our liga, allegedly, yun nga, wanted for harems, sexual abuse.
What is male heteronormativity?
Claiming yun nga. Mansplaining probably, or, kasi lalaki, the usual.
Parang you're excused because you're a guy.
Yeah.
You're always excused because you're a guy. Then you are always criticized because whatever a woman does, she'll be criticized, no matter what.
Yeah, it's a dichotomy between the mansplaining and the woman blaming.
We already experimented with this. I would say something on social media, but I'd make you say it, and it would be okay if you said it, but if I said it, oh my God, it would be like weird because parang, di ba may mga ganun tayo experiment? We would say the same statement, but if you said it, more acceptable for you to say it than for me to say it. There have been times when we experimented, right? With them not knowing that we were experimenting with that.
Is social media patriarchal? Probably, because it's still created by the system.
It's not social media we're talking about. We're talking about the reactions of people.
I know, that's why.
On social media to what would be acceptable for me to say or for you to say.
I know, but
they're just observations. But it is all based on what what is just has been there for generations.
I know, but we're still talking it through the medium. So even through that medium, it still comes through. The patriarchy still comes through based on the reactions to these similar posts. If it's something that's angry or disagreeable, or because women are supposed to be quiet and not disagreeable or angry or
especially anger.
Express angry
emotions.
It's
like if I expressed anger, that was really like, sometimes that was really like the deal breaker with some people if I expressed anger.
Mm.
And I'm like, why? Why are we not allowed to express anger? If it was a guy expressing anger, it's okay. But a woman, no.
Yeah.
Diba? So, which part of the paper did you find most, I don't know, interesting?
We talked about it already. What I found most interesting. It's pretty much a summary of what's in many memes, but I think the people should go. You should
go beyond memes.
Go beyond memes and really read about it.
People don't. Parang I don't understand. They're like 5-minute read, 10-minute read. Parang don't even. Why does it have to be said that it's a 5-minute read or a 10-minute read?
Because
just freaking read it or audio play it.
No, because they don't want you to take away time from them making money off you on social media.
No, for the audience, they're lazy. It has to say 5-minute read.
Yes, but that's why the whole point is it's a brain. Listen to me. A brainwashing that, you only have 5 minutes or whatever, because it's still brainwashing. So they want to keep you on social media and just keep feeding the monster.
Okay, well.
Anyway, I think we're done.
We're done. That was What is Patriarchy.
That's too long.
Oh my God, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pa.
Yeah, it's a summary, so it's obviously a paper, but there's no. You have to research who this person is. Some kind of paper.
But what did you think of these things?
It's pretty much. I agree with pretty much all of it. Almost all of it. It's correct, but it's correct because even just based on the eye test, even from my own field, filmmaking, it's quite clear that it's patriarchal because cinema do papa, as Carney says it. How many women got recognized for their contribution, and of course the language in which it is couched, especially mainstream filmmaking language, as Tina Menkes talked about in her paper. I also noted this, that it's like, the objectification of women, so on and so forth. And of course, women not being honored for their contribution or not given the opportunity, or the patriarchal system. Sorry, Hollywood, very bad. It's noticeable based on the statistics even, if people who claim it's not true. If you look at statistics, it shows that if a woman's film flops, goodbye. Guy will get more than one chance if his film flops.
Unless your name is Kevin Costner and you made Waterworld.
No, that's a joke. Okay, even Kevin still gets work.
That's a joke.
But even so, that's one example.
But he got work eventually.
And another article I noticed said also, it's quite rare for women to make more than several films. Most women's reputations in history are made just based on one film, because after that, no one ever helped them. No one ever gave them the chance to make another film. So it's just one or a handful of films. So it's quite rare to find some certain names, like for example, Varda or Chantal Ackerman, to have films that are like go beyond 10. And of course, it seems normal for a guy to have like 80 films or 100 films made or something. So anyway. Even just the eye test alone.
Lack of solidarity and competitiveness among women is promoted. Lack of solidarity among women escalates to outright contempt for each other, thus ensuring their loyalty to men and male values.
So that's why even this is used against people who aren't. For example, in racist culture, it's used against non-white people. You divide all the non-whites to compete against each other. Also, so the question is I guess you'd have to research further. Is divide and conquer a patriarchal thing? I don't know. Did it originate with the patriarchy, or did it exist before the patriarchy?
In patriarchy, gender roles and stereotypes may be different in each social class, age, and culture, but through the mechanisms and institutions mentioned previously, it makes these roles seem natural and universal.
Yeah, for example, it's better, they say it's true, to be a woman here in the Philippines compared to, let's say, the US.
Oh, yeah.
But there's still a patriarchy here.
Yeah, but
it's still...
It's an underground matriarchy. My American friend who worked at ADB said, "You're right. I coined it. It's an underground matriarchy." Because she said, and she worked at ADB, she said, women hold the purse strings here. Kaya nga, ma'am, sir, diba? Women hold the purse strings here. They have some power here. And they have a say in everything.
Another example, when I used to work at the Central Bank of the Philippines, the former governor, Rafael Benaventuro, passed away, the former governor during that time in the mid-2000s. Also noted that in their microfinance programs, it's mostly women, if not all women.
That's like
and
the Grameen Bank.
And
yeah.
the women will pay it back.
They pay it back.
they'll pay
that's
it back.
The Grameen Bank from Bangladesh, diba?
Yeah, really small, like at the time, which was big, 500, 1,000 pesos, just borrowing that much to start a small, very micro business. The women will pay it back. It's mostly women who are that entrepreneurial spirit in terms of that kind of. So it is true that the women, because obviously, even I guess into the most macho household, unless the guy really probably beats up the women, when the guy comes home, he gives the paycheck to the wife.
Patriarchy was the first structure of domination, subordination, and exclusion, recognized as such by history with a capital H.
But there's no, and I
and still remains a basic system of domination. Ironically, while being the most powerful system of inequality, it is hardly ever perceived as such, even by women themselves. That's true. It's like, magigising ka na lang one day and marirealize mo, teka lang, diba? Bakit ba kailangan ganon? In fact, precisely because the invisibilization of patriarchy is one of its institutions. Even some feminists deny its existence.
Well, that's the whole point. To perpetuate a system of domination and
you don't even know you're in it.
Inequality, it shouldn't make itself known. It just has to look like the normal.
Does that mean this is why some women will just use their first names because they realize, okay, I'll drop the husband's name. I can't even use my maiden name because that's my father's name. So my name is just my first name.
I don't know. Depends. I don't think you have to be that extreme, but I guess you should just be self-aware of, you don't. But again, I guess whatever works for you. If that helps you empower you, fine.
Diba? Parang,
it shouldn't just be a gimmick, though.
Yeah. Parang, it's in everything. We don't know. Like for the longest time, I thought, it's also a status thing to have, what do you call it? You must have this hyphenated name or something like that, and it must be, it's part of that status as a woman also, I think.
Yeah.
And then you realize you don't actually. That's part of the brainwashing. That's all part of the brainwashing.
Perpetuation, because although it depends again on the situation, the system. Anyway, I think we're good. I'm getting tired. So
okay.
I'm getting hungry. So that's, I think, 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's our longest one ever. Kasi maraming pa dapat pag-usapan, hindi pwedeng pag-usapan yan sa isang sitting.
No, it would take hours or not even
days.
More.
And it requires a lot of people to talk about it. I thought it would be fun because it should be you and me.
It's 40 minutes.